Hey guys, I wanted to talk today about taking personal responsibility. I say it all the time on the show and in these videos, and I talked to a feminine lately who was like, I don't quite get it. So I just thought I'd go into a little bit of an explanation here about what that's about. Um, okay, so essentially, you may say out of habit, they make me so mad, right? But even in that statement, it implies that they have the ability to make you mad. Fill in the blank for whatever word that is. They make me sad. And it's just not possible for anyone to make us feel any way that we don't want to feel. So we have all these stories like growing up that we tell ourselves, like just any kind of self-defeating thought you can think of. I'm not good enough, or you've been with these guys or these girls who put you down, or you've been insulted maybe, or you compare yourself with others. There's all of this stuff that goes on as you're growing up, and things that you have bought into over time that have become like a subconscious story that runs in your mind all the time. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. All that. And what happens is when this person treats us in such a way that we can read into it as that, we buy into it. And we think that they're doing it to us, but it's us buying into our own story about it, if that makes sense. Just let that sink in for a minute, because it's not really true. And most of the time, people are jumping to conclusions. If they're not like super hyper self-aware, they're most likely jumping to conclusions about what the other person is thinking about them. And it's usually really out of their own projecting what they think of themselves. So if you have a situation where somebody doesn't love themselves, like they're pretty convinced that they're just unlovable and, they're no good, and you put them with somebody who loves the hell out of them, they will completely deny it. And I don't care what you do. You could serve them breakfast in bed every day. You could, tell them till you're blue in the face how beautiful or how handsome they are, or, that you look up to them or that you believe in them. And they will just be like, yeah, I don't know about that. And they'll be skeptical of you and all of this stuff. They'll have their guard up because they're just not ready, because they're still buying into those old stories. Somebody who takes personal responsibility as a contrast would hear something or see something, and they might be able to question it. They would say, this is what I heard. Well, this is what I think I heard you say. Is that what you meant? They would try to clarify without jumping to any conclusions or getting defensive. They might also, if they're in a situation, they might be able to communicate effectively and say that, I'm really hurt right now from what I think's going on. This is what I'm perceiving. Can we work together as a team to figure this out on what to do? Because I'm sure that, like giving the benefit of the doubt, I'm sure you didn't mean it. I'm sure that I may have just read into it, because, our egos do that. But, being able to talk it out with maturity and with open communication and open heart, not closing yourself off and putting a wall up, when you start doing that and you start making somebody else responsible for your happiness, you're going to go into separation from that person that you love. Either you're going to break up if it's a karmic relationship, which is good anyway, but if you're in a true love relationship, it's probably a temporary breakup, but it's still a separation, and it's still really hard. But it also, because of the dynamic of the true love relationship being so magnetic, you guys have the opportunity to grow up tremendously in that time that you're separated. Each time that I've seen these couples, and they have these interactions where they're just like, it's your fault that I'm unhappy. And they both say that to each other in some way, shape, or form. And then they go away for a while. And then the next time they see each other, they're like, who are you? Like, are you even the same person I talked to the last time? Because I don't even recognize you. So if that's your partner and not necessarily you, then, don't don't pigeonhole yourself and say, oh, they're going to be that way for the next 20 years. I don't see that changing, because they could change overnight. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Also be open and vulnerable with your own insecurities, and it'll encourage the other person to do the same. And if somebody says to you, look, I think you were being kind of bossy, or look, I think you were being kind of narcissistic, try just saying, you could be right. That's another way to take personal responsibility. You're not even necessarily owning it. You're not even saying you necessarily were coming from that space. But I will tell you that if you can consider anything anyone says to you as possible, then you open your mind up to grow and to learn, to expand, to admit, to be vulnerable, to be authentic. And you are able to say, and it feels good. It feels really good to contemplate, but to be able to, I wish I could remember this quote, but to be able to contemplate anything as a possibility and then decide whether it was true or not. At least then you're coming from a really clear place. What people who don't take responsibility do is they automatically get defensive and deny it. No, I'm not that way. No, I didn't do that, without even considering it. And also, if you take personal responsibility, you apologize. An apology, and you can apologize in a number of different ways. It's not necessarily that you say, I apologize, and we shouldn't require there be an apology. But honestly, it's like it's a kind way to it's not even like taking it as responsibility, yeah, it's my fault that you're feeling that way. It's just more like, I understand your feelings, like I get feeling afraid, I get feeling misunderstood, and I'm going to do my best to listen, and I apologize if there's anything in there, whatever you can own, if there's anything in there that made you feel that way. That's not how I was intending to make you feel. It lets their guard down. It helps them relax that you're on their side. It helps them to see that you're willing to push your ego aside and make that apology. It shows that you care more about them than you do your ego. But also, having said that, it's like an apology doesn't necessarily need to be had. I just think actions also can speak louder than words. And also, if you're dealing with somebody who doesn't take responsibility and they're trying to blame you, I don't think you should have to apologize repeatedly. That's like taking it to an extreme. If somebody is constantly blaming you and telling you that you're doing everything wrong, then that's not the relationship for you, because you'd have to try way, way too hard to make something work that just isn't natural. Or it just means that they don't love themselves enough yet, or haven't grown to that maturity level of being able to take responsibility for themselves and their own feelings and emotions. So essentially, what it's about is being able to be happy no matter the circumstance, no matter what someone's saying to you, no matter what they're doing to you. I'm not talking about abuse. If somebody's abusing you or just being outright awful and mean, don't be with them. That's just kind of yeah. So if you can learn to basically make yourself happy despite any circumstances, that no matter what goes on in your life, you're able to rise above it and be happy or be present in the moment, then you're going to have a much more successful relationship and a much more fulfilling relationship. One book that you can read about that, and there are so many, one is called Getting Real. I don't remember the author, but it's a red and white book. The other would be Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. Byron Katie obviously is awesome. If you listen to her CDs or read any of her books or watch her on YouTube, you can see how she does that. But rather than blaming yourself, it's all about kind of essentially setting yourself free by being willing to admit anything, being willing to just be vulnerable and authentic about who you are and consider anything. Even on my channel, as I'm growing and as I'm learning and as I'm going through my own experiences, I'm evolving. I may have said something like in the past that I felt really strongly about, and it may change now. And I think that that's part of being a growing individual. And I think that if you are like so solid about what you think and what you believe that you can't consider anything outside of that, you are in for a mental breakdown. I think that you're not growing and evolving as an individual, or you're not going with the flow of life. You have to be willing to consider anything outside the box. You got to have like a really open mind and be willing to consider anything that you may be absolutely and totally wrong in your approach, in the way that you communicate, in the way that, I mean, anything. There should be like nothing that is a subject you can't explore or be open to. That's just my opinion, and how I feel that we are best supported by the universe and in relationships with other people. I can listen to the most pompous attitude or opinion and just have them yammer on forever about it. And I will seriously be searching that conversation for any ounce or grain of something valuable I can get from it. You know what I mean? So I just intently will just listen. Like, there's got to be gold in it somewhere. There's got to be something really good I can get from this. And there's got to be like a universal truth that I can find in this. So I just encourage you, if you're not there yet, learn about it. Figure out how to do it. Learn not to be defensive. Learn to just consider each other's points of view and hear each other out and do your best to validate each other and understand where each other's coming from. And you could have yourself a really incredibly healing relationship with this true love partner, because they are not out to make you wrong. They're out to learn and grow too. They want to be your team. They want to be the one who's got your back and that grows with you, and they want to learn too. So it can be a really beautiful healing thing for you both. So anyway, something to consider. You guys have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you later. I was going to say talk to you next time, but I say that all the time. But anyway, talk to you. Bye.